Hi, I'm Amy Layton, a career coach, a resume writer, and I'm here with Rachel Logan, a licensed clinical social worker. Federal employees like you are facing a lot right now: job uncertainty, sudden changes, and the emotional weight of leaving behind years of dedicated service. If you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure about what's next, you're not alone. I felt that it was important to have this conversation because what's happening in DC right now is unprecedented, and these transitions are not ending anytime soon. That's why I reached out to Rachel. Together, we want to share strategies to help you manage the stress and emotional impact of this experience while also offering practical job search tips to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. Let's get into it. So, Rachel, welcome aboard.
Hi, Amy. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited about this conversation.
Just watching the news and just talking to friends and neighbors about what's happening in DC, I just felt that it was really important to have this conversation. And, as a career coach, I can sit here and tell you, okay, this is what you need to do with your resume. This is what you need to do with your LinkedIn profile. But in doing the resumes and updating the LinkedIn profiles, the one thing I've learned over the many years that I've been doing this is that if the job seeker is not in the right frame of mind, their job search is going to be really difficult. And again, considering what is happening in DC, it's unusual. And so normally when somebody is laid off from their job, or fortunately if they're fired, there's a lot of emotional baggage. But the fact that all of this stuff is happening at the rate that it's happening and affecting so many people, so many agencies, it's really hard to get your hands around the situation. And so I thought, why not just put together a video where we have a conversation and we talk about how people can address their feelings and help them manage to focus when it comes to pursuing their job search. And so that's why I wanted to have you here today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We see it and we can feel it. When we see those headlines and or we see the numbers on at the bottom of our screen of how many people have been impacted by this recent job loss, it hits us too because we can't imagine what they're going through, what their families going through. And so I think this conversation will be beneficial for us and all the viewers as well to learn how to cope, how to manage with all the emotions that comes from this.
Exactly, because so many people have dedicated their lives to their career. For many of these people, it's not just a paycheck, but it's their ability to
Mm,
serve the public, to serve their nation. And a lot of people associate their job titles with who they are.
yes.
So to have this suddenly end with very little reasoning why, reasons that really don't make sense, it's a hard thing to grasp.
Mm,
And I just, and a lot of people are going through the emotion, because it can be 1 minute they're surprised, they're overwhelmed, confused, anger, grieving. And I just wanted to just come out and just say, as a career coach, it's understandable. It's okay for you to feel these emotions. Please, don't hide your emotions. It's okay to feel these emotions, but I also, as a career coach, want to say to the audience is that this will not define who you are. And the steps or the experiences that you had, the skills that you have that got you the positions in the first place, that stuff hasn't gone away. We just need to refocus and make these things stand out so that when you do start your job search, you won't forget that, hey, I am capable of doing this. This situation is not going to define who you are. And so these were just some of the things I wanted to address. And I guess my first question to you is, how can federal employees process feelings of betrayal or loss when their job is cut due to political reasons? Like, what are some of the first steps that they can do to address this emotionally?
One of the ways to address it is to for sure process it. And what I mean by that is to sit in the emotion. So
Okay.
a lot of times when we are experiencing shock, betrayal, you mentioned the word betrayal, it hits us like a ton of bricks, right?
Right.
It's like a gut punch, right? And in a place where we disbelief and fear. And so instead of trying to run and just swiftly go to the next thing, let's process what happened. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? And how is it impacting me? And so, what that can look like is that you can do this with a friend, or you can just spend some time journaling your own thoughts and your own emotions, but truly process it and not just try to rush past it or suppress it and or act like it didn't happen or it doesn't bother you. That does bother you to be betrayed, to lose something out of the blue or a sudden, that's so many hard feelings can come up from that. And so, just giving yourself time to breathe and giving yourself time to process is so important, right? And not just move or rush past it and go to the next thing. So
Okay.
my tip and suggestion is to feel it, not ignore it, and not rush past it, but allow yourself to acknowledge that that hurt. This is painful. This bothers me. I can't believe that happened to me. Why is this happening to me? Just allow yourself to go through all the questions that you naturally have when you are faced with something like this.
I think that is such valuable advice because again, just in my years of, coaching people, writing resumes, I have found that when people have left their jobs due to circumstances beyond their control, whether they've been laid off or unfortunately they've been fired for their jobs, they don't allow themselves to ask those questions. And instead, what they end up doing, they just start jumping into, okay, I've got to get a job. And then they start sending resumes out to anybody, everybody who has a position available. And then, there's a lot of sadness of, oh, why didn't I get called for an interview? Or if they had the interview, oh, why didn't I get hired for the job? And that just adds to the frustration. And it really just starts messing with their self-worth as far as what they think of themselves. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a situation where it's just like this never-ending loop, and it's not ending well for them. And so I think the idea of just at first taking the time to journal, to address the emotions, I think that is so valuable. And, that's something I hope that people who are affected by this situation or just job seekers in general, I hope that they would take the time to address their feelings. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, address the feelings and look at the facts, right? And so, a lot of those times when something like that abruptly happens, we can point fingers or, blame someone for X, Y, and Z. But looking at the facts removes the emotional side of it
yeah.
and allow you to just look at what is the evidence, what just occurred. So it doesn't impact you and you find yourself not internalizing what happened. So you mentioned like feeling insecure or self-doubting. Well, if you look at the facts, well, this happened, that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with my self-worth or my ability or my job performance. Then that can separate, the individual from for thinking and feeling less about themselves. So pause, process what happened, but look at the evidence, look at the facts.
Yeah, I think that is so beneficial. And so I guess my next question is, would you take that ability to pause, look at the facts, and I guess how would that affect their ability to focus on their job search and like what can they do to help manage that?
I know when we look at facts, for instance, say for instance, We have a dog or a puppy, okay, and we love our dog, we love our puppy, but our dog is outside and it's playing and somehow it hits its paw against a stone. So the dog comes in and it's limping, right? And so now we have to bandage that dog up, we have to nurse it, put ice on it, all those things to make sure that that dog heals and is able to go back outside and run full speed, right? Those zoomies at the end of the day, we want our dog to do that full time, all the time, every day. But that's what happens to us in the workplace and those who are impacted by these sudden job losses that, man, they go to work, they show up, they're doing their task, and then all of a sudden their paw get hit, right? And so now they're limping. And so that's why we want to take that time to nurse ourselves back to health, to nurse ourselves back emotionally and mentally. So when we do have to go back out, right, and apply for a job or go to interviews, we are nursed back and that we're able to stand on our 2 feet, advocate for ourselves, display our gifts and talents, our capabilities, not with the limp, but fully recovered. And that's why it's important that people take time to pause and recover after a loss like that. And so, what that will look like is maybe you're not on Facebook. Maybe you're not commenting on social media. Maybe you're not watching the news day in and day out because that can re-trigger you. That can injure you all over again. And so by looking at the facts, you're no longer responding emotionally, but you're giving yourself space and time to recover and
Mhm.
also prepare yourself to go back into the workforce and giving yourself time to think about your self-worth, your values and capabilities so you can go into job interviews confidently, knowing that, hey, I'm fully recovered emotionally or I'm partially recovered emotionally, and I'm able to come and do the job, not from a wounded place, but from a place of heal or healing. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like that. And the idea of, as you were speaking, I was thinking that instead of watching the news, instead of, spending a lot of time on social media responding, this could be an opportunity for people to look for volunteer opportunities. So, their careers may be ending in the federal sector, but, they may be considering careers in the private sector. Take the time to research. Um, a lot of times people will compare to job titles, but instead they should look at what skills they bring to the table. And private sector employers, they have a tendency to write job descriptions that are very different from the federal government, but they still require the same skill sets. And so take the time to research the job sets. Let's try to take the situation and turn lemons into lemonade in the
Mhm.
sense that look at the skills. Maybe this is an opportunity, a calling for you to try something different in your career. Um, you know, it's and again, it's not allowing this situation to determine your value. And I think that's something that people really need to hear right now.
Yeah.
And so, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I like what you said that their skill sets are transferable. And
Mhm.
so just learning and looking for the new language because the majority of the time they have everything they already need. And so now working with you, Amy, they can learn, how to transfer those skills into the private sector and be just as effective and powerful, influential in the private sector as they were in the federal sector. So yeah, that's a great point.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And so I guess some of the things I really am excited to talk to you about are like practical coping strategies, like things like mindfulness technologies or not mindfulness techniques, recognizing when the emotions interfere with productivity and tips for handling rejections and setbacks. And that probably is one of the main things I would really like to hear from you about because the job market is so competitive. Even before the purging of the federal jobs happened, we were in a very competitive job market. And so in working with clients, it's like, okay, how do we make your story stand out to employers. Now that we are going to be adding even more people to a very competitive job market, you know, unfortunately, we will have, rejections and setbacks. What are tips that would be helpful for job seekers who are going through this situation?
Rejection, when you brought up that word, no one likes that. I don't care
No.
if you are the top of the chain at your company, the least of the chain in your company, no one, I don't care what age, what color, it doesn't matter. It doesn't feel good. So overcoming rejection it's learned. You have to learn how to not internalize if someone chooses not to choose you or pick you or take you to the next level during the interview process. My belief is this, and I say this everywhere I go, is that you were born worthy. You were born worthy of love. You were born worthy of influence. You are worthy of acceptance. You were born worthy. And so just having that mind frame that no matter what, no matter if you lose a job, you get promoted, that job is taken away, it doesn't matter. Your worth remains. Your worth, your essence, the importance of who you are, it doesn't matter the title, the position, or the pay. You were born worthy. And because you were born worthy, you have influence. And because you have influence, you're valuable. So it doesn't matter where you go, what company you work for, you still carry that essence. And so recognizing that no matter if you are accepted or approved or not approved or not validated by a company, that you recognize and own your identity no matter what. And I think that is so important. So the way that you overcome rejection, just what I said at the beginning, you do acknowledge that it hurt, period, right? And not judging yourself, not condemning yourself, but giving yourself that compassion that you know what, that you, even though it happened, that you are mindful of the words that you speak to yourself. A lot of times people find themselves in unhealthy mental health patterns because of the thoughts that they think towards themselves. And so one of the strategies is to reframe. It's reframing your thoughts and reframing the words that you speak to yourself. So for instance, if a person is not chosen to go to the next level in a job interview, instead of saying like someone's better than me, or I wasn't even a great candidate, I'm not worthy for that job, they found someone better than me. No, that's negative, and that's going to cause you to feel bad and less secure about yourself. So we reframe. So reframing your thoughts can look like I wasn't a good fit, but something else is out there for me, right? Or another idea could be didn't get chosen for the next interview, but the next job interview, I'm going to do my absolute best. I'm going to come prepared. Or I would insert a person's faith. If they believe in God or Jesus, they can insert, you know what? They didn't choose me for the next round, but I know without a doubt, God has my back and he's going to provide a way for me. Another example can be, I didn't get promoted, I didn't get to the next level, but I'm going to continue to fill out applications. Bottom line, the worth remains, right? But making sure that you do not look down upon yourself, criticize yourself, and that you give yourself compassion. You can acknowledge the truth, but give yourself compassion because that's what you need after being rejected.
Yeah, it breaks my heart when I hear job seekers who've been in the job search for so long and for one reason or the other not get the job offer. And it just breaks my heart that they immediately go to, I wasn't good enough. And the thing of it is, there could be internal things happening in the organization that we don't even know about.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and then sometimes you have to look at it. Well, maybe, and I know this is hard to kind of look at, but sometimes you kind of have to look at it from the standpoint of maybe this was not a good fit for me. And a lot of times when it comes, especially to the job interview, a lot of job candidates are looking at it one side, meaning the company will make their opinion of me. But they also have to look at it that it's two ways because you are also interviewing the company. And if the organization like doesn't follow up with you after an interview, or they give you a curt response to say thank you but no thank you, things like that, maybe that was a good thing you didn't get hired, because maybe it would not have been a good fit. Maybe it didn't match your values and what you're looking for in a company. And I think it's important to remind job seekers that the interview process is a two-way street. And so I think this ties into what you were saying, in that don't put all the blame on yourself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said. It's a two-way street, and really asking, not just you looking for them to hire you, do you want to work with them?
And I think that comes in to play too when you're considering submitting your resume and application process for the company. Research the company. Find out what that company is about. Fortunately, we live in an age where information about organizations is very easy to find.
Mhm.
And, like whether it be their website, Glassdoor, to find out like anonymous responses from former or current employees, um, Better Business Bureau, things like that. You can do your research and find out, does that company's mission meet with my goals? And if there are red flags, maybe it's not a good thing to take the time to submit your resume. Because it's kind of like the whole dating world where, like, sometimes people will enter a relationship thinking, oh, I can change this. I can change that person. And only to find out that no, they can't. Same thing with the company. Same, if you have any like hesitation, maybe that is a sign that that is not a good company for you to apply to. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, no, you bring some good points, right? Not, don't internalize it if you're rejected, but definitely interview them, right? See if it aligns with you, see if it matches up with your value system and your belief system. Yeah, it's not just one-sided.
yeah. And I just think that the more that we can drive that home for job seekers, I think that will help with the self-worth, and reminding them that, hey, you guys are worthy. And so another
Absolutely.
question I have for you is, like, how can job seekers identify when stress is turning into something more serious, like depression, and at what point should they seek professional help?
We all experience stress and anxiety. Some of us can experience bouts of sadness, and that when you have experiences, external experiences like a job loss or changes in your career, so it's normal to experience it and feel it, right?
Right.
When it becomes unhealthy, is when those feelings are taking over and impacting your day to day. So, for instance, it can look like you're not getting out of bed, you're not eating, you're avoiding conversations, avoiding family, you're no longer showing up to engagement. That's when it becomes red. That's when the red flag shows up, right? Where something that is typical and natural that any human will experience, but when you see that it's starting to impact your relationships, your engagement, and your health, that's when I suggest that you, hey, reach out to a loved one, reach out to a friend, or decide to consult with a counselor or a life coach or a career coach about what you're going through. So it's normal, but when it begins to impact your day to day in relationships and health, that's when you should step out and get help.
I think that is something that we're starting to see more of, again, because of the job market being so competitive. And I get concerned that, again, because some, job seekers are looking for employment, they're looking for validation of their credentials. And when that's not happening, especially in an immediate reaction, I mean, since COVID, the whole interview process has changed. And so, for example, prior to COVID, people who were interviewing for positions in the C suite, they may have gone through a series of interviews, maybe 4, 5, 6 interviews. But since COVID, we're finding that same idea, that same mindset happening for like mid-management and in some instances even at lower levels. And so people are going through many interviews for one job, different types of interviewing format. In some instances, it may be hard for them to prepare for the interview. It's not kind of like a, okay, I'll go in, have a one-on-one type interview. So it's really hard for them to prepare for that. And when they've invested so much time and energy into applying for one job and then either get the thank you, but we've decided to go in a different direction, or worse yet, no response at all, it does something to their confidence. And I think that we're probably, unfortunately, I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this again because the job market is so competitive right now. And so I think it's really important that job seekers understand and that they can recognize the stages of, hey, I may need to seek help with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, just knowing your signs, being aware of your red flags is key, right? So you and I may go through that, right? And we may notice, hey, we have lost energy, or maybe we might lost motivation, but we might bounce back. Give me a day or two, and I'll bounce back. But an individual where we're noticing that they're not bouncing back, and we find that they have withdrawn, or their thoughts have become dark, or maybe sometimes they might get really severe, where they might have thoughts of wanting to end their life. And just give a disclaimer, not trying to trigger anyone, but I just want to put that out there because this is real. Some people do, their thoughts go dark. And so just recognizing, hey, that's not your norm, right? This is not your norm. A year ago, that wasn't your norm. So allowing yourself to pay attention to your thoughts, pay attention to your body language and your habits is so important, and reaching out. There's a free services in the USA is if you can text or call 988, and that is a free line, it's a crisis hotline, and that anyone can call any time of the day. They're open 24 hours, and you can reach out and just talk to someone and allow yourself to process your thoughts immediately, and so you can get the resources and the support that you need, because sometimes those thoughts come at night when the world is silent, when everyone is in bed, but you find yourself up at night, right? And you find that you can't go to sleep because your mind is racing about, what am I going to do? I have bills coming in. What am I going to do? My children are dependent on me. And so, I want you to know, if anyone is seeing in this and can recognize and identify, there and help is available, and there is free help. There's community help, there's online help, there's telehealth that can help and support you. So that's how you know when you're not okay. And so don't ignore the signs. Do not ignore the emotions that you may be feeling, or the thoughts that you may be thinking, that it's not your norm. And definitely reach out for sure.
That is great advice. And so the number again is 988. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think I think a lot of people, they'll have that feeling of embarrassment or shame, and so therefore they will try to deny that they need the help. But just acknowledging, hey, it's okay to ask for help. I think that is so powerful at this point. So thank you for sharing that. And so I kind of want to switch now to my questions about the job search, practical tips when it comes to the job search. I know that in working with clients, they have a tendency to, especially if this is the first time that they're searching for a job, or if it's been like forever since they started the whole process, they have a tendency to become overwhelmed with the process and they think they have to do everything in one afternoon. And it's like, no, 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 no. And so, when it comes to the job search itself, I like to work with clients and break it down into manageable steps. And so one of the first things that I recommend is, again, figuring out what type of organization. Well, even before that, my favorite line is, if money was no object, what would your ideal job be? You know, and people are like, kind of taken back by it, but then they start talking about it and you see that excitement and you see that enthusiasm. And then it's like, okay. And then when we break it down, we realize that, hey, maybe that wasn't so far-fetched after all. There are things from your experiences, your skill sets, your education that you can actually work towards, like using these skills. And so we break it down into those steps, and then we break down, okay, like what type of company would you want to work for? What type of organization, large, small, like what type of position you're interested in. And a lot of times, um, especially with my newer job seekers, when I'll say, okay, what type of job are you interested in? They'll either read off their college major or just a generic job title. And it's like, okay, do you want to work like for what type of organization? Do you want to work in journalism? Do you want to work for uh, like the police department? What? That sort of thing. And so we make them think about it, but not in a way that they're so overwhelmed. We try to break it down into manageable steps. And one of the things I'm realizing, especially people who have spent so much time, the majority of their careers in the federal government, this is a career change that they did not anticipate having to make. A lot of these people are questioning whether they want to stay with the federal government. And so, unbeknownst to themselves, they're forced to make a decision. Hey, maybe I'll look at the private sector. Um, but then there are people who look at the private sector as being this big, mysterious thing. And they're like, how can I adjust my credentials to the private sector? And so, we kind of break down and say, okay, well, it's not that big of a difference from like what you were doing in the federal government. But we try to break it down in ways that private sector employers will understand. And I guess one of the other things that I want to talk about or ask you about is, when job seekers feel paralyzed by uncertainty or procrastination, like what are some mental shifts or coping mechanisms they can help that they can take that will help them move forward?
So I think one of the mental shifts that they can take is to recall the past. And what I mean by that is you have to get that job, right? And so there were steps and a mindset and a motivation that really charge you to go after the job before. So go back and think about, what did I do in the past that landed this job? Right? What did I do? How did I show up? How did I dress? Who did I call? What networking opportunities did I engage in? Who did I enlist for support? Who was my mentor at that time? What was their advice for me then? And so recalling the past can help them think about and employ those same strategies to help them to move forward. So think about the motivation, think about the camaraderie that you had, because a lot of times when you're starting a new job, you're telling your friends about it, you're connecting with your community, having people write reference letters for you. And so just recall what landed you the job in the past. Recall how you went to college and all the effort that you have to put into that to get the degree and to graduate, right? That took strive, that took resiliency, that took energy and focus, determination, and it's still in them, right? That's what I want people to remember, that it didn't go anywhere. It's still in you. So recall and apply again. Take what you did and apply it again because it got you where you wanted to be the first time.
I think that's great advice. And and the other thing too that I think will that I want to add to this is, don't be afraid to step outside of the box. If there is an organization that you're interested in, but you do not see any immediate job openings, don't let that stop you. Connect with people in the organization. Maybe you have friends or family who work in that organization. Ask them to speak on your behalf to people. Go ahead, send an introductory letter along with your resume, and try to set up a time with like the hiring manager or even the CEO of the company, and just include your credentials, include why this organization is of interest to you. Um, Basically make them feel like, hey, I've got to meet this person, because if they cannot find a position for you in their organization, guess what? We'll talk to one another. They may your name may come up in a conversation that they are having with someone else, you know, with another organization. And I think it's really important for people to step back and remember the things of, okay, what worked to help them get the jobs and how can I adjust it to what's happening today? And so I think that's great advice. And I guess another thing that employees have a hard time doing, which in some ways it kind of surprises me, but networking. There's a lot of
Mm.
anxiety around networking. And the idea that people who are now forced in a situation where they're job hunting and now they have to network, um, what are some suggestions that you have around that to help with the nerves and to help with the anxiety around networking?
I've been there for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, I have.
Can relate
Yeah.
to the nerves of like showing up to random events and thinking about who will I talk to? What am I going to say? And so just know and going in with the idea of let me not go in just trying to get, but what can I give? Right. So who can I listen to? What can I learn today? Right. And not just go in with like, let me get all these contacts and see who's who and go in with a curiosity, actually. Right. So go in with the curiosity of like, I've never met this person. What can I learn? Who are they? What do they like? Just go in with, I want to get to know you. Not to get something from you. I just want to get to know you. I saw your name, on this list and I saw that you work for this company. Tell me, what do you do there? How do you feel about, the culture? I'm so curious. So go in networking with a curiosity, go in with the curiosity and an excitement, right? That you get to meet new people. And that so going back to what we said at the beginning, you're going to show up with value because of who you are. You're born valuable. So it's not like you have to put on a show. It's not that you have to go in there to impress anyone because you're already who you are. You're already complete and whole, right? And so just going in with the right mindset that I'm valuable and it's not that I have to prove myself or make a name for myself there. Mm-mm. Go in with curiosity, go in with a hope and an excitement that you're going to come out with new friends, with a new lunch partner, maybe that you go in with the anticipation of just seeing who lives in your community. Just making it not just so much about business and work, but who can I connect with and grow with.
I think that's great advice. And it reminds me of a story. I belong to a mastermind, and one of the members of the mastermind was talking about she went to this conference in Florida, and she's starting her own company, and she went to this mastermind with one idea in mind. And when she was there, she was realizing, sadly, that it wasn't basically the conference wasn't what she expected it to be. But instead of looking at that situation as being a complete wash, she started to focus on, okay, when I start holding conferences for my business, I'm going to pay attention. What did they do with like the sound systems, with, like setup of the table and the speakers? And she started to pay attention to those things. And she said, I walked away with so much knowledge because I did not allow the disappointment of the actual conference to ruin my trip. And she said, so I came away with a lot of valuable information. It wasn't the information I thought I would come away with, but I still got something from it. And I think that's kind of related to what you were just saying, from the standpoint that don't allow your anxiety to get the best of coming away with an experience from a networking opportunity. And so, because I think that there are job seekers who, again, go in for the ask,
Mm.
and instead of showing what value they can bring, and when that immediate job opportunity doesn't materialize at a networking event, there's disappointment there. And I think, um, yeah, with the job seekers, I think it's very important for them to just go into these things with an open mind, not to be over rehearsed, because that's another thing, that job seekers will go into situations like networking and they will feel that they have to memorize an elevator pitch. And if one small thing gets off, that can throw their rhythm. And in their minds, they're like, oh my gosh, it was a complete bust. And so I like the idea of just walking into it, just looking for new opportunities, new adventures. And I think that will help with the anxiety as well. And so, yeah, I think they'll be pleasantly surprised if they approach it that way.
Mhm. Like you said, make lemonades out of lemon. Don't dwell on it, but just go in with the hopes of building a community,
Yeah.
building a
And
team.
some networking opportunities, they just may not be a good fit, but that's okay because you would not have known that unless you went and experienced it yourself. And that's good. You're right. It's all about finding your community at this point. And so,
Mm.
yeah. And so I guess one of the next questions I have, it's about balancing mental health and career goals. And what role does self-compassion play in helping job seekers handle rejection and setbacks?
So that self-compassion is when I think about compassion, I'm thinking about something gentle, soft, something kind and loving. And so when job seekers do experience rejection or setback, that they are giving themselves that grace and that kindness. So earlier we talked about the art of like reframing and not beating ourselves up or putting ourselves down for being rejected or not accepted for that job or the next interview. But so self-compassion can look like giving yourself the evening off of not job searching and just say, you know what? I'm going to reset. I'm going to refuel by watching a few TV shows and maybe going for a walk, right? Even though it's super cold, just layer up. Fresh air does a body good, okay? But just giving yourself that time to recover, that time to reset. So giving, filling up your cup by self-validating. So being gentle with yourself can look like looking in the mirror and just pointing out to yourself all of your great qualities and your skill set and your values and morals and like what really sets you apart. So being gentle with yourself and pumping yourself up. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to be the voice that validates you early in the morning and late at night, right? And so being that gentle reminder that I am worthy, I am built for this, I am resilient, and just recalling like that same principle, recalling all the obstacles that you've already overcame, right? And just remembering like who you are and giving yourself that space to recover. But more importantly, it's that inner talk and not being the inner critic, but being that self praiser, that validator, and allowing yourself to recover after those setbacks.
I like that. I think we all need to be reminded of that. So thank you. Um, so when job seekers feel stuck, what are some practical steps that they can take that will help them regain their momentum?
A practical step could be listing all of your qualities. So, writing and journaling it does something to our brain. It just kind of like engraves it, right? When we can recall, the things that we have been able to do, when we're able to identify our strengths and our qualities, it helps us bounce back and recover. And so I would highly recommend just listing it. And more importantly, if you need a pick me up, go to a friend. Go to a friend. Go to a coworker who remember and can recall your greatness, who can recall the last project that you work on and that you did show up and you did your best, right? So surrounding yourself with positive people will help you recover and recall and bounce back. Okay. And so a practical step will be listing, making those connections, and also just doing research. Doing research. Doing research can help you recall, recover, and reset.
I think that is such a great reminder. And then as you were talking about making the lists, I was even thinking taking it one step further, make those lists available. And so put them on your refrigerator, put them on your bathroom mirror, put them, in your home office if you have one, something like on your computer or near your computer, put it in a picture frame, but something to remind you of those lists and the things that make you who you are. And so, I think we always need those reminders. And so I love that idea. And I also love the idea of connecting with friends and coworkers, um, because it's amazing the power that getting together with a group of people can bring. And they can be motivating, they can make you feel good about yourself, and they are the ones who really see inside of you. And so I think that that is so important as well. And so, well, I wanted to take some time to wrap up. We've talked about a lot of really great information. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I just think that it's again so important to focus on your career goals. All the stuff that's happening, we have no control over it. It's like I said, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like that. It's affecting hundreds of thousands of people, but we can't control all that. But the things that we can control include what we are going to do to focus on career goals. And so, focus on who you are, the skills that made you who you are. Don't identify yourself with a job title, but identify yourself with your skills. Um, you know, it's so important to manage stress with healthy coping mechanisms and recognize the triggers, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. People want to help, and seek support whenever you need that support. Make sure you have a good friend, family members, and just talk with them. And if it's something that you have to call that person in the middle of the night, you call that person in the middle of the night, and do not feel any shame or embarrassment or that you're being a big burden, because again, people want to help. And people lifting people to help them to become the best that they can be, living, you know in everyday life with their jobs. That's what it's all about. And so, I wanted to offer some resources. And when you sign up for this video, you will have the opportunity to download free resources from both myself and from Rachel. And these are just tips that we've put together to help you with managing stress, and also tips that will help you along with your career search. And again, I just really want to emphasize this. You are not alone in this. With the right balance of focus and support, you can successfully navigate this transition. It will make you stronger. And so I wanted to, again, thank Rachel for being a part of this. The information that you provided is so helpful. And I just hope this is the first of many conversations we have going forward. And if any of you watching this video feel that you need help with resume, career, please feel free to reach out to me. If you want to reach out to Rachel, please feel free to reach out to Rachel, and we will make sure that our contact information is included. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I just want to say, we will get through this. We will get through this together, and we will learn from this experience. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. See below for our free resources. Just scan each QR code to get the download. We want to be the resource that you use over and over. Follow us on social media, but also scroll down to see more.